Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and well, in this video, I shall be ranking all the Assassin's Creed games based on the world and the atmosphere and the music and stuff like that. So basically world and atmosphere. Now, if you have missed the other videos that I have made in the series, you can go there, check them out. I have made a video on the rankings based on story, lore, and characters. I have based one on gameplay. So go check those videos out later and watch this right now. So yeah, without any further delays. Oh yeah, one more thing that I wanted to add. Like this video if you like it, and do subscribe to my channel. And you know what? Let's go. So at number 12, we have Assassin's Creed Rogue. Now, honestly, this game just ranks bottom at everything. Like, it doesn't have a good open world. It doesn't really do much with its atmosphere. It has some good moments, especially when we go towards the North Pole. It has its moments, but overall it's not good. Considering the quality of the other games in this area, is just not that good. The music was actually the most difficult thing to rank in all these games because they pretty much all have good music. It's just that among all of those, I would say this is the weakest one. So yeah, for me, Assassin's Creed Rogue finishes 12th. Now in number 11, I have Assassin's Creed 3. And honestly, Assassin's Creed 3 suffers from basically the same problems that Rogue does, as in the environments are just not that interesting. And even the homestead areas, like at first, when I first played the game, they seemed nice. They seemed better than the cities, but eventually, it just didn't click with me. Now I understand that this is a very subjective opinion, but that is my opinion regardless. So yeah, it's pretty much slightly better than Rogue in the world and atmosphere, and only slightly better than Rogue as far as the music is concerned. Now once again, the music is actually so close that a lot of things are going to be weird in that category. Like, I don't think Assassin's Creed 3 necessarily had bad music. It's just that all of these games have really good music, so it is really difficult to properly quantify that. So overall though, this does finish 11th. Now at number 10, I have Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, the less that I talk about this game, the better. Now, I don't really like the open world of this game because it's just like a flat space of nothingness. Like, I shouldn't exactly call it flat because there are mountains, but overall it's just the traversal through the game world is not that good. The options for traversal also suck. That is why, the open world doesn't really feel all that good. Then there are things like the wholly repetitive bandit camps. Like, it's just the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Now, to be fair, most open world games are repetitive in their structure, and I shouldn't really hold that against an open world, except the open world in Odyssey is so huge, so massive, and so much of the same that it honestly drags down the experience a bit. I would much rather have had just a few Greek islands and a much smaller scale game than whatever the hell I got. Because, the atmosphere is good enough, but there are other games that have done it better than Odyssey in my opinion. But overall though, I don't think this is a really good open world. I don't think this is a good example of an open world. Like, if you want to make an open world game, don't do this. Do anything but this. So yeah. As far as the music is concerned, it's not the worst in the series, but it's not the best in the series. Honestly, as I've said before, none of this music is the worst. All of them are good. Even Odyssey has some really good soundtracks. Honestly, the way I rated the music for this is how many different soundtracks from these games do I listen on a regular basis, like outside of the games. And also, what kind of an impact does soundtrack actually have in the game? So considering that, Odyssey didn't rank that high up because I only listened to like 2 themes at most. So yeah, it's a little bit lower on the list. Now, next up at number 9 is the latest addition, that is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, Assassin's Creed Valhalla does a lot of things well, but open world design is not one of them. Because if Odyssey's map was flat, Valhalla's map is flat and boring. Like Odyssey's map was also boring, but it is slightly less boring than this. Like Odyssey was slightly more bearable than Valhalla's map design. I really thought that the way they were going with going about with the exploration, the way they were going about setting up the atmosphere, I honestly thought this would be better. It is not. Odyssey beats it in this regard. But the one thing, in my opinion, where Odyssey does not beat Valhalla is the soundtrack, because this is some of the best soundtrack in this series. They're just absolutely brilliant in my opinion. So yeah, it gets that slight leverage over Odyssey, and that's why it is slightly higher. Otherwise, Odyssey would have beat it soundly. Now, moving on to number 8, we have Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, Syndicate, in my opinion, I have said this before, among the locations that Assassin's Creed has visited, Syndicate's London was my favorite location of all the games. But however, if you will probably look at all the numbers at the end of the video, you will see that I haven't really rated the world or the atmosphere that high. The reason why I have not rated the world that high is because for me, for my taste, it's not complex enough. Like, it is good. It is a very beautiful recreation of London. It doesn't really gel particularly well with all the Assassin's Creed mechanics. We have to use the rope launcher for the most part, and it honestly kind of breaks my momentum thingy. So the thing that I want to say is that it's just, for me, the way I see open worlds, the way I kind of go about judging open worlds, the things that I usually judge is how complex these open worlds are. Are they just a flat mess? Or do they actually have some depth in their design? How do we traverse through these open worlds? And in these categories, Syndicate does lack a little bit. But it is still one of the best, so it is still in like 7th as far as the open world goes. And it has a really good atmosphere. It's just that the games that are above it have even better in terms of atmosphere. In terms of music, it's good. I have actually listened to Syndicate quite a bit, Syndicate's soundtrack quite a bit. But lately I just haven't, because I just listened to it was just a phase. When Syndicate came out, I listened to the soundtrack a lot, but then I just didn't listen to it all that much. But I did enjoy the soundtrack. It does go with the gameplay really well, so it deserves its spot there. Now at number 7, I have Assassin's Creed Revelations. Now, this is the game where I really enjoy the story, where I kind of like the gameplay as well. But in terms of open world, it felt like the weakest in the Ezio trilogy. To me at least. Now, I'm not saying that it is not complex enough or complicated enough. It has its complexities. It has its own things. But overall, for me, I just didn't get that sort of enjoyment out of this open world that I got out of any of the other open worlds that I've rated above Revelations. As far as the atmosphere is concerned, also, it has good atmosphere. It's not like bad or anything. It's just that the other games have done it better, in my opinion. As far as the music goes, some of the best. Not just in the series, but in general, in gaming in general. You know what? Screw gaming. Like in soundtracks in general. Some of the best ever. So, yeah, it kind of deserves its spot there. Now at number 6, I have Assassin's Creed Unity. And with Assassin's Creed Unity comes its own sort of things that we need to consider. So now, in my opinion, Unity's Paris is actually an excellent and well-designed open world. At no point did I ever feel like I was getting hindered by the design itself. I always felt like there were multiple options for me when I was traversing through the city. When I was going through the city, the population density gave me various opportunities. Things in this game, the way this game is structured, it really gives you the scale of the city really well. Like this is just 1-to-1 scale of Paris as far as I can recall. It really shows you the scale. It really shows you how you are in this world. But it doesn't overdo it. And also, even though the streets are somewhat far apart, it is kind of still packed properly so that there are various opportunities for you to traverse the way you want, to go on really good parkour runs actually. So yeah, overall I really love the world design of Unity. As far as the atmosphere goes, I rated it 7 in their whole franchise somewhere. Like it's almost in the middle area. Like it's not bad. Unity's atmosphere is actually pretty good. It's just that again, other games have done it slightly better. So it's not that Unity is bad. In fact, in atmosphere and music, other than Assassin's Creed Rogue, I don't think any of the other games are bad in these regards. Especially in music. Like in music, none of these games are bad. In atmosphere, other than Assassin's Creed 3 and Rogue, pretty much all of these games have good atmosphere. So you can, if you want, interchange these according to your own tastes. And that is something that I wanted to mention in between. Now we move on to the top 5, and in the 5th position, we have Assassin's Creed Origins. Now, Origins has its own flaws. But the one thing I would say it does well, and it does really well, is the atmosphere. It is some of the best in the series. Like when I went into Origins initially, I saw Origins' gameplay and all that, and I was not quite convinced. But what I loved about this game was the atmosphere that it was trying to set up. When I climbed those pyramids and I can see the Alexandria's lighthouse far off into the distance, while the desert sand is shimmering, it really creates that sort of a vibe that you're in ancient Egypt. This is something really cool. Yes, it does lack in terms of its open world complexity, which is why I haven't actually rated the open world, the world itself, that high. It is high enough, but it's not that high. Like it has some sequences, especially in Cyrene, in Alexandria, in Memphis. It has areas where you can go into good parkour runs, even though the parkour kind of sucks. But overall, the complexity is lacking a little bit, so it's not that high. But the atmosphere, obviously, it has a great atmosphere. As far as the music goes, again, it's very difficult to rate, but I have rated Origins exactly in the middle at 6th position. Like, it is good, but there are other games that have done it better. Now at number 4, I have the original Assassin's Creed. And honestly, the reason why the original Assassin's Creed is that high is because of its atmosphere. This is, in my opinion, the best atmosphere in an Assassin's Creed game. Like, yes, a lot of people right now might be going like, oh, this doesn't look very good. This is like really old. That's not what makes an atmosphere. Graphics are not what makes an atmosphere. The way this game is designed, the way the game flows, the way you move through the city, the way things grab your attention in the distance. But with that, I have also rated it quite high in the world itself. Like I have explained the complexities of this world slightly in more detail in the parkour video, but I will go through it again. Like when you go through this city, you will always see that there are multiple options for you to go to. Like for example, if I am on a rooftop, it's not just that I am in the rooftop or I just drop down to the ground. No, there's a third layer as well. I can go into that third layer for the most part. Or sometimes there is even a fourth layer, like slightly more elevated layer. Then there is a slightly more depreciated layer. Then there is the ground level. So there are many choices. There are many micro choices that you have to make while you're running around in this world. And honestly, that just adds to the overall vibe of this game. And that just adds to the overall atmosphere of this game and also the open world design of this game. So in my opinion, this is a great design. Now, they could have improved upon this, and in some areas they did improve upon this. But it is quite sad that after this game, a lot of the elements that made Assassin's Creed 1 into the game that it is were kind of lost because things were streamlined in the sequels, and rightfully so. As far as the music goes, I have rated it 9th. It's not the best, it's not the worst, and it's good. It's good enough, but other games have done it better. Now we move on to the top 3, and at 3rd position is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And in terms of the world, the atmosphere, the music, almost everything in this game is really good. In terms of the world, I haven't really rated it as high as Assassin's Creed, the original one, or maybe Assassin's Creed 2 or Brotherhood, games like that. In fact, even Unity is higher in the open world department. That's because I feel like even though the high seas are really great and they provide a lot of opportunities, it kind of gets a little bit boring eventually. But it is still gorgeous. And also, if you connect all the other cities like Kingston, Havana, there are various opportunities for parkour, especially in Nassau. Like, there was a recent video by Jesus, I believe, and he was going through Black Flag and sort of getting parkour roads done. And so that was really good, and there is potential in this game for you to go around and exploit the level design. But overall, I would still say it's not the best in the series, but it is definitely among the best. As far as the atmosphere goes though, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Now, it is still just about in top 5, in fact it is 5th, but that's just because the other games are just better than this. But that doesn't mean that this is bad in any sense. The music, some of my favorite music in this franchise, and in general, like, there are so many Black Flag soundtracks in my Spotify playlist. It is honestly ridiculous. But yeah, I really like the soundtrack. The soundtrack works really well with the game itself. So overall, yeah, it deserves the 3rd position. Now moving on to number 2, I have Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Now in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, pretty much everything is good. The world is not as good as some of the others. Like, I have rated Assassin's Creed 2 higher and also Unity higher than Brotherhood. But it is still a really good open world. Like, it is well designed, the parkour flows well, when the movement system gels really well with the world, it automatically elevates the design of that world, in my opinion. Like, if I'm just horse riding through endless amount of fields, it's not doing anything for me. I'm not actively engaged with the world. Yes, the vistas might look absolutely ridiculously good, but to what end? Like, what am I actually doing in that world? So in terms of that, Assassin's Creed always has had a leg up with its parkour systems, and that is why you will see a lot of the original games, or at least the original style of games, being higher on the list, because it does help. It does help that because these worlds are designed with these sort of movement systems in mind, something that the most latest games haven't done. So automatically they do suffer a bit. In terms of atmosphere, it's not the best, but it is certainly among the best. Definitely Rome has its own charms. In terms of music, it gets into top 5, but barely. It is literally 5th. So yeah, so it is 2nd in my list. And the winner of this category of the world, atmosphere and music is Assassin's Creed 2. Now, Assassin's Creed 2, I gave it the 1st position in world design, 3rd in atmosphere, and again 1 in music. And I will explain why individually. Now, in terms of world, now you might be thinking, why did I rate it above Unity's Paris? I clearly said that's a really good open world. Now, in Assassin's Creed 2, more than Brotherhood and more than Revelations, and I would say even more than Assassin's Creed 1, I always felt like there is an option. In Assassin's Creed 2, the world in Assassin's Creed 2 is so well designed, so compact, that you have multiple options to do whatever it is that you want to do. Like, people can pull off parkour skills in Assassin's Creed 2 with relative ease. Like, I can do it. If I can do it, anyone can. That's a philosophy that I usually go with. And it is true with this game. The movement system works so well with the world design that it just flows effortlessly. And that is something that it doesn't matter how good your movement system is. If your world itself does not complement your movement system, then that movement system simply won't be good enough. And this world, it does. The design is exceptionally good. Now, in terms of atmosphere, I have rated it lower than a few games. Those games being Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed Origins. But this is really a personal preference. Like, I really like Renaissance Italy. Like, I like Venice, I like Florence. I just like the other games slightly more. In terms of music though, best in the series, one of the best in general. So yeah, music, excellent music, works really well when you are in the open world, sets up the atmosphere perfectly. And if you want to make a playlist of your own and listen to this outside the open world, it doesn't really seem alien to you. In fact, it seems really good. So yeah, overall it gets into the top position. So right now I'm just gonna leave the chart on the screen, so you might be seeing this all on the screen right now. So yeah, those are my rankings for these games. Now I would love to know what are your rankings. Do let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked it, then press the like button. If you disliked it, then tough luck, you can't do anything about it. I mean, you can press the dislike button and I still won't be able to see it. But like, what's the point? So anyway, do subscribe to my channel for more content, because this is not the only video that is coming. Another video that I am about to make, that is going to be the culmination of all 3 videos. So that is going to be the final ranking of all the Assassin's Creed games in 2021. So stay tuned to my channel for all of that content, and I will leave you guys in peace.